It was amazing. And then I met Jay, and it's like, oh my gosh, he's like this powerhouse and super impressive guy. And he was in transition and just, you know, really exploring what he was going to do next. And then he landed on executive coaching. And he comes from this sales executive background and operations background. And so he really is able to pull together all the aspects of what it takes to be just, you know, in corporate America and a thriving professional. And he's also has this innate ability to really tap into, you know, what's going on with you and helping you see things that maybe you're not even thinking are there. And I know that's what he did to me yesterday, just in the brief conversation we had. So super excited about Jay. And today he's going to talk about a concept of energy congruence. And when he and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, it was amazing, you know, because we know that there's the energy thing. We feel it when we're with people. We feel it when, you know, even on Zoom, you can tell when somebody has an energetic level of any kind, either high or low or anything. But what's really interesting is that, you know, we can be out of congruence with our energy. And so I'm really excited to have Jay share with us. And I'm getting out my notepad because I know I'm going to take notes. And Jay, I just want to say right at the beginning, thank you so much for doing this for us. Look at this community that we have here, and you know, you have just such a gift to offer us, and I really appreciate it. And we're going to make sure that even those who have to log off early, that they have your contact information if they want to reach out to you. So just you know, we'll make sure that we can pass along the info for people who have to log off, because you are definitely somebody that can be a resource for people in transition and people in corporate. So I'll turn it over to you, Jay.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'm really excited to talk to this group, because this is a group that I went through, and I've leaned back on this community in a variety of different ways, and the boot camp itself. And in fact, I've referred many people to the boot camp, some of which are here today because I believe in it so much. So it's a great thank you and a fantastic introduction. So let me share my presentation here. Christy, if I move this to full screen, I think I'll lose the side panel on Zoom. Is that right? Oh, you're muted.
No, I don't think so. I think you're going to be fine. And for those of you who want to see Jay's face, just put it on speaker view.
Yeah, and that would be great, because I want to talk about some body language stuff. So what I'm going to show you here is stuff that I talk with my clients about. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction on myself. We're going to talk about energy. And then what I'm going to do is go through some questions as if you were some clients that I want to get your wheels turning. I want to get you guys thinking in a different way. And then I'm going to go through some practical areas that I focus on with some of my clients that are in a job search. So let's start. So who am I? Here's a quick background for you. I'm originally from Connecticut, but I've spent my professional career here out in Silicon Valley working for companies like Hewlett-Packard and several other companies. And starting as a hardware engineer, moving my way up through up to management and sales management, and then ran sales operations and built sales operations and was a VP at several companies, helped take a company public. And in those roles, I was advising senior leaders. And I was also helping build training programs in leadership and in sales. And it got me really excited about helping people. And one of the things, when I left the corporate world, I took some time off. I went and taught a photography adventure trip in Antarctica, and was really trying to figure out what my next step was. And it was after that I went to boot camp. And at boot camp, there was a shift for me that I was thinking of becoming a coach and then really leaned into it. On the right-hand side, you can see the areas that I focus on with my clients, whether it's energy or strategy. And down there, you'll see NLP. And NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It actually has to do with how the subconscious works. One of the things that I went through was a lot of Tony Robbins programs, and I deconstructed, how did Tony Robbins do the work he does? How does he inspire leaders to achieve incredible stuff? And one of the things he uses is neuro-linguistic programming, and I went and got certified by the master who created it, that Tony learned from. And I work with my clients on how they're thinking and what's going into the subconscious. And most of the day, our subconscious is running on programs. Like when you get up and you eat breakfast, you're on a program. When you're driving the car, you're on a program. When you're watching television, you're really on a program. When you're doing some deep thinking and concentrating, you're moving stuff to the conscious brain. Then the subconscious is a little bit more in the background. But it's surprising how much the subconscious plays there. And in the subconscious, we hold these blocks and these barriers. And so I'll talk about that at various levels. So I'm going to talk to you guys as if you're clients. And like I said, and I've got some questions. I do have at the end 2 offers that I'm going to be putting out to you guys. And so I'm excited to share those with you. If you don't stick around, you can get it later. Some of them are time sensitive. All right. So my goals in the presentation is I want to look for transformation. And this is one of the things when I talk to clients, potential clients, one of the things that I test in them is, are they ready for transformation? And transformation isn't a radical change of your whole life. It's actually an adoption of an idea that I'm going to take and I'm going to live differently with it. So when you read a book, a lot of people read books for information. Oh, I got that information. But one of the things that's really valuable is to take that information and say, how do I incorporate that into my life? Last year, I read, I think, 50 books, and this year I'm at a slower pace. I'm around 20 right now. And when I read through the books and I look at models or frameworks in there, I take those out to help with clients. And I myself look and say, how can I adopt this into my life? So that's one of the things. When you go through today, what I'm asking you guys to do is have a pen and paper, to write down ideas, to not only take the idea, but to commit to one of the ideas and see how it can change you. Now remember, if you make one simple decision, and you may make a decision that how you're going to do networking or what you're going to do differently, often one simple decision can change the course of where we're going. If you look at a ship that's going to Europe and it changes course 1 degree as it leaves New York, it's going to be in a very different spot. So that's what transformation is about for me. And if you're open and allow this idea in, then you'll lean in and take action more so. So, like I said, I want to get you guys thinking differently. And also I want to fire you up. And that's what we're going to talk about in terms of energy. Okay. So one of the things here is that if you look at how you approach a job search, one of the things that can happen is you're taking time trying to figure out, how do I get organized on this? And you end up losing a lot of time in the process. And if you calculate and say, wow, that took me 2 months longer, what are the lost wages in that? So what you want to do is figure out, how do I minimize the time it takes? How do I minimize that lost time? So there's 2 areas here. One is we're going to talk about energy, body language, rapport. And the second is I'm going to go through some strategic and tactical things that I think you should cover in your search. Okay. Sometimes, I'm going to move this so I can see you guys in the middle, because I'm looking off to the right. Sometimes you don't get a job and you don't know why. And one of the things that happens is, oh, I think they didn't like me. I think I didn't present well. And sometimes It just very might well be your energy. And when I talk to people, they don't know what to do about it. They don't even know how to measure it. And it's just a gut thing. I think it's off. And so what I want to do is kind of demystify that a little bit. I want to help you understand what your subconscious is doing and what other people's subconscious are doing when you're in interaction with them. Okay. So if you look at what I've got here in terms of levels of energy, and I'm not giving you all of the detail because it would take much more time to go through. But if you look at shame, shame is the lowest form of energy. If you listen to Brene Brown talks on vulnerability, shame is at the low. If you listen to John Gottman, who's a leading researcher on couples therapy, shame is at the bottom. If you cause blame or shame in someone else, or they feel shame, that's at the bottom. Well, when you talk to people that get laid off, it's not uncommon, not for everybody, but it's not uncommon that people feel some level of shame. And it's like, wait, they laid off 3 people out of the 7, and why did I get laid off? And what happens is when we carry that at some level, we can't move on it. Shame is, I feel broken at some level. Now, the other thing is when you look at identity, and this is one of the things I work on with clients, is where they see their own identity. Some people attach their job to their identity. It is one of the most dangerous things to do, because when the job gets taken away, you feel like your identity is taken away. And that's not what we want. We don't want our identity taken away. Now, I've also been in this situation where I've been laid off. I was laid off with a group. I think there was 40 people. This is when I was at Blue Coat, and the company eventually got delisted, and there was a lot of money problems that the company was having. And the senior VP pulled me in. He says, look, we're eliminating a bunch of positions, and we're going to have to downsize because of some money stuff. And one of the things that I was able to tell him, and I'm not even sure how I did it at the time, was this job does not define me. It's very important that we don't allow a job to define us. Now, I was in a situation where my boss at another company got laid off. And for years, he could not get over it. He couldn't get over it because he had such an attachment to the identity. Now let's talk about these levels of energy. And when I say energy, there's almost a vibrational quality to these levels. If you look at someone who's in shame, they speak more shallow. Their voice isn't as animated. They're not excited about stuff. Higher than shame is depression. Depression is, woe is me, I'm struggling, it feels hopeless, I don't know where to go. Above that is fear. And it's interesting because rarely do we understand that these things have certain levels to them. And above that is anger. Now we're told, hey, don't make people angry. It's not polite to do that and everything. But believe it or not, anger is a higher level than depression, because anger, I really care about something to fight for it. I'm mad. But in depression, you don't care. And as you move up the levels, you get toward courage, you get toward acceptance, and then you get toward possibility, and you get toward creativity, joy, love, spirit, divinity. And here's a really important thing. If you think about problems, how do you solve problems? You solve problems in creativity. Creativity. You can't solve problems in shame. You can't solve problems in anger. So you really need to solve problems in creativity. So ideally, we're up at the higher levels. All right, so what is energetic congruence? It's a term, maybe the term's out there, but it's a term I started using with my clients. And this is how I view it. Imagine that you have two levels of energy. You've been laid off from a job and you don't feel great about it. And it's like, oh, there's a pandemic. I'm 50. I don't know if I'm going to get a job, in the same category that I was in. There's a lot of people out there. Folks aren't responding. So how does all of that feel? That feels very low energy. But you got an interview. Hey, I have a conversation. So what do I have to do? I have to present a high level energy. So I want you to watch me on screen here. So here I have a low level energy. That's what I'm feeling authentically. But I present a high level energy. And that's energetic incongruence. When I feel one thing and I'm presenting another. Ideally, you're feeling and presenting the same thing. Well, let me tell you the ramifications of this. There's two large ramifications for feeling low energy and trying to present high energy. It's exhausting. Who resonates with that? If that resonates with you, put that in the chat window. Yes. Why for yes? All right. So if you have to put on a face when you're not feeling it, that's a huge issue. All right. Here's the other thing. Your body language leaks. I'm going to say it again. Your body language leaks. People can tell. So what happens, and I've interviewed, one of the things I put on my profile there, that my last role, I interviewed over 400 people. And sometimes, the interviewers will go, something's off with that person. You've had interactions with people where you go, something's off. Let me tell you what's happening. Your subconscious reads body language perfectly. I teach classes I've taught some classes in body language. I'm not currently teaching them. And one of the things that's interesting, when I've taught classes in body language, people are laughing all the time because they go, oh, I get it. I get it. Because they recognize that their subconscious is very familiar with it. But you don't necessarily think about it in the moment, what's actually happening. And if our body language is leaking, what we're doing is we're projecting that I don't even have confidence in myself. I'm desperate. I have to get a job. And when we've got that level of desperation, we've got that level of, I have to have it, that will show, even though we don't say a word otherwise. All right. So I want to share with you something that I got in the last 2 weeks. It was a request for a coach. And here's what she said. Now, I took this and sent this to a friend, and I just said, hey, pray for this woman. I couldn't take her on because it didn't fit. Some of her other things didn't fit for what I wanted to take on. But here's someone that is at a very low level. And this is very sad. Now, but is there part of us that can see ourselves in this statement? This is an extreme example. But, I look at it and sometimes I've said to myself, oh, my hair's a little white. Should I cut it shorter? I had a guy several years ago and said, hey, Jay, have you considered coloring your hair? It was a guy. I was like, no, and I'm not changing my nose either. I mean, for some people, that's fine. But for me, that didn't feel congruent. All right, so let's talk about how you get congruence. How you get congruence is to drive an authentic feeling of creativity, an authentic feeling that you actually can go conquer the hill. To draw on your experiences that you have succeeded, to drive that kind of mental fortitude. And this is what I reflect to clients because sometimes they can't see it. I reflect to them, here's what I see, here's what you're carrying, and we get that congruence in alignment. The other part is physiology. Physiology is how your body is carrying itself. And one of the things you want to do, whether it's on a phone call or a Zoom call or a meeting in person when those start occurring, is to drive the energy in your body higher. And there's a whole bunch of ways, and I don't have time to get into all of the ways to do that. That you drive kind of the oxygen into the blood and a bunch of other things that clears the mind. So when you're able to clear the mind of, I really need this job. This is the only interview I have. Really important, all right? So that's what energetic congruence is. And there's certain things as you go through these various tasks, am I taking this on with the right energy? All right. So what's your job search plan here? Do you have a plan? Well, here's the thing that is ironic. And this is one of the things that when Christy was sharing, we were chatting yesterday, I think I said this to her, was sometimes there's a lot of pieces happening and it's really important to just slow down, because when we slow down, we can actually speed up. And all too often, when people are in a job transition, they don't slow down enough in the right way. They might slow down and just say, I'm in depression, I give up. That's not the right kind of slowing down that I'm suggesting. It's really asking yourself some questions. And I think the most important question you can ask yourself is this. So I'm just going to take a minute and I want you guys to write down 2 or 3 bullet points that you want. And this, by the way, if you're on the call here and you're not in a job search, just put a goal. What do I want with this goal? So it doesn't have to be the job search. What do I want? Are you really clear on what you want? All too often, when people leave a job, what they do is they lead life by chance versus by choice. They don't get strategic. When I'm in the corporate world, hey, I'm strategic. Well, when I'm on my own, all of a sudden, all my resources are gone, and it's like, I don't know what to do. Well, what do I want is really important, because if you don't lead, if you're leading a life by chance, you're not leading a life by choice. So this is a perfect opportunity right now in between jobs to say, what do I really want? How do I drive my spirit so it's at its highest? You can have energetic congruence at a low level. That's not great. It's not great from accomplishing things. It's great from feeling in alignment. You know, the other day, my daughter asked me to make her some eggs. I did that, and then she came down and said, oh, well, I don't want them. And I kind of blasted her a little bit and said, I was angry at her and said, look, you asked for these, and I stopped what I was doing to make those for you. So that's like energetic congruence. She apologized right afterwards because she could see I was just in alignment. I didn't have any other agenda. Now, but that's not where we want to be with a job. Where we want to be with a job is much higher. We want to inspire the potential employer that we have the energy and the excitement to do that. Okay, so here are the other questions. And I want you to write down, does my search have a robust strategy or a weak strategy? So write down robust or weak. Do you have access to all the expertise to land you the best career spot you want? Yes or no? Are you focused on accountability and actions and influence? Yes or no? And write down, yes, for accountability, yes, for actions, maybe not for influence. Have you set yourself up to grow or survive from this process. You know, one of the things is we can look at changes in our life that are unexpected as failures, or we can look at them as lessons. Someone that's in a contracted mindset will look at it as, I'm in pain. Look at me, I'm suffering. No doubt you're suffering. However, if you shift the mindset to this is an opportunity and carry it with that energy, it will start to be transparent in other things that you do. What do you need to do to act now? So write down 2 or 3 things right now that you need to do. And then, what's the cost for you right now for not having a plan? So here's what I'd like to suggest. Take your salary, and what's a month cost you? What's 2 months cost you? And the reason we want to get these questions answered is it fires us up. You want to have a reason why you're driven by this stuff, all right? Now, the other question that's not on here, that's a really important question, is how am I going to feel when I achieve my goal? How am I going to feel when I achieve my goal? So I want you to write goal, and under that, write 3 words that are all feeling words. How am I going to feel when I achieve my goal? All right, so this is kind of the methodology that I use with my clients. We start at the top and we go counterclockwise in this. So clarity, that was that question, what do I want? If you don't know what you want, if you're just, you know, I'll take this job or that job, if you're that person that I showed that was energetically incongruent, how is her body language going to show up? Through her hidden mask and wanting to hide her face. She wasn't the most unattractive person in the world. I don't know what, I mean, I looked at her and said, I don't, she didn't have white hair. She didn't look that old to me. She could have been in her 40s. It's like, what is going on? There's something going on, and it's in her head. It's psychologically. So getting clarity on what you want is important. The why is the rocket fuel. When you know why you're going after it. Hey, I want to buy a second house. I want to continue taking vacations. I'm imagining, you know, retiring in the following way. When you have a why that's a movie in your head, and you've done this before, when you've gone to college, for example, you put in a lot of effort, more effort than you're going to put in this job search. And you had a vision of starting your career. You had a vision that there was some positive outcome, and you played that movie in your head. So I help people create these, but you can create this on your own. And you play this movie in your head, and it draws you magnetically toward your goal. Then the other thing is, do I have focused actions that I'm taking? Do I have actions that are really in alignment with my goal? All right. So when you work this process, this is a very effective way to go after your goals, whether it's a job search, where I'm working with a ton of folks who are working on improvement or leadership. I'm working on folks in their personal life to help them figure out whatever they want to accomplish. All right. So I'm just curious, how many salespeople we have in the audience here? So put a yes, a Y, if you're a salesperson, and a no if you don't do sales. Why or no? All right. So here's the thing. If you're looking for a job, you're a salesperson. And if we lose sight of that, then we're kind of missing the boat a little bit. So let's think like a salesperson for a bit. And if you're not trained in a salesperson, and I've been a salesperson, I've been a sales leader, I've been a sales operations leader, let's just take a little crash course on it, all right? So what is sales? Sales is listening. Sales is serving. It's influencing, and it's creating a fair exchange of value. All right? Now I want to flip on your head a little bit what you might be thinking about a job search. And it has to do with serving. And one of the things that when I was working on becoming a coach, I shifted my practice toward a service-oriented model. And what that means is that, first of all, I don't advertise. I don't even have a website. What I did was I just met people and I served them. I served them with low expectation that they would become a client. I served them that said, let me help create a shift for you. And you know what? They saw that energetically, that I wasn't needy. I was operating in their interest. And in some cases, they didn't become clients. And it wasn't a big deal to me. But those people referred clients to me. So how do we do that service model that's not needy in a job search? Because I need a job. We put the need down for a minute. All right? It's kind of like listening. I talked to, and I've experienced this a lot in the corporate world. Sometimes there's competitive talking. I'll listen just to find the break where I can get in. If you've experienced that, put a yes in there. If you've experienced competitive talking, if you've experienced people waiting for the break, listening powerfully is one of the most important things you can do, because you're tuning in to the person. When someone feels heard, they feel seen, they feel respected. Very important. I studied nonviolent communication for years. I had a partner, he's now in Spain, and we were empathy partners. We practiced empathy with each other. So listening in a powerful way, the potential employer will feel that. Successful sales reps listen more than they talk, by a lot. All right, so let's talk about serving. When I'm looking for a job, I gotta see if they have what fits for me. But let's flip it on its head. What's really going on? When a sales rep goes and sells software, he's trying to figure out, listening powerfully, what is their business need? So if you think of finding a job as solving a business problem for them, then your mindset is in the right place. You may not get the job. We're going to play Buddhist here. Non-attachment. All right? I'm less attached to getting the job. There's more interviews out there. There's more jobs out there. If I come from a place that's not needy, non-attachment, and I'm really interested in getting in their mindset, and there's a concept in NLP and hypnosis that's called model of the world. When we get information into the brain, it generalizes, it distorts, and it deletes information as it comes into our brain. And when it does that, I never capture true reality. If you were interviewed on the conversation relative to this presentation today and I was interviewed, we would have a different experience. We pull stuff in differently. And sometimes it could be a disagreement with a spouse or a conversation, or in the work world, that I've got my model of the world and I want to project my model of the world onto other people. And if you first try to really understand the other person's model of the world, then you can influence them more, because you understand their model of the world and your model of the world. Okay. If this is making sense, give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get into some practical tips here. So when people change jobs, they're like, wow, I'm going to laundry at home. I can take the dog for a walk. I've got all of this free time. And their calendar looks like the calendar on the left. And yet they used to run their life like the calendar on the right. And they don't have structure. It's really important to get structure. A successful sales rep creates structure. Hey, where's your sales? I don't have any sales. Then as a sales manager, I'm going to look and say, do you have structure? All right. And what that means is plan, and there's something powerful here that will release anxiety with the mind in doing this. There's guilt in job hunting. I'm not spending enough time. I'm not getting the results I need. Well, let me tell you something. No one can job search for 8 hours a day. No one can job search for 6 hours a day. It's exhausting. You run out of things to do, and energetically, it sucks you lower. We want you at high energy, all right? So if you create a structure that says, I'm doing the following things, and you accomplish those things, take the afternoon off. Go take the kids out. Feel good about it. You have the freedom that comes with, I have a plan, I'm working my plan, and I create freedom. All right, sales reps, metrics. Good in the corporate world, might not sound fun now, right? Well, metrics are important. How are you measuring your progress? This is one of the things I do with my clients is we figure out what are the right metrics for you. What am I doing networking? What am I doing in terms of getting resumes out there? What am I doing in understanding to figure out what I want? So making sure that whatever you're trying to accomplish, you're measuring. And I gotta tell you, at the end of the week, when you do this, you go, wow, look at that. When I was starting out as a coach, I started measuring. Who have I reached out to? Who have I talked to? Who have I coached? Who have I proposed to? Given a proposal to? And I measure with my clients their progress on a job search and things like that. So you can do this. Create metrics, the right metrics for you. All right. Do you have a strategy for networking and LinkedIn? Strategy, not by chance, by choice, right? Not haphazardly, like what's my methodology, all right? Just answer this question privately to yourself. Do you have that or do you not? All right. So the interview, right, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna cover one area. Clearly, there's a lot of things that go into, an interview prep. And, one of it is researching the company, making sure I understand that, researching the person, the people that I'm going to talk to, figuring out what is the core message that I want to get across. Do you understand what your superpowers are? Not just go into the interview, but we're going in with high energy. We're going in with an expectation. Is this the right job for me? Not just, I need a job. How are you creating that in advance? Now, one of the key things is the stories we tell. How am I going to draw from my previous experience and tell the right stories? All right? Now, in American Idol or The Voice or something like that, it's always about the song selection. But here, it's about the story selection. What happens is people will select stories. Oh, here was the biggest project I was involved in. And by the way, your selection of projects, only you know. The person sitting across the desk doesn't know that you picked the biggest one or not. Let me tell you what I think is a key element in picking the right story. It's the one you're most passionate about. because I don't want your body language leaking. I want you passionate when you're telling the story. It's like, you gotta have this. You know, there's elements to the story, you know, and there's a methodology out there, I think, called the STAR method, which I've modified because I just think it's more powerful. And my methodology is around the hero's journey. You know the hero's journey: leave home at a young age. Well, I'm not young, but I've got some adversity. I overcome adversity, and then I come home. That's what we want to tell. So I was working with a sales rep. So I'm gonna tell a story that you know, happened recently, and we were just working on his story. And his story was about having a huge successful sale. It's great. He told the story. He did a good job telling the story. Then I asked him, "Can I tell your story?" Sure. And I started with a headline to the story. And he sold $370,000. And he told me, and then at the end, yeah, it was a $370,000 deal. And I started the story like this: where the average deal size was $60,000, I sold a deal for $370,000. Do you want to hear the rest of the story when it starts like that? Do you have a punch to how you're going to tell these? Now, when you start developing these stories and get some reflection from somebody else, and I'd suggest partner up with somebody, I'm sure there's people here that you can partner up with to do that. When you do that, you can powerfully say, wow, like this story is conveying an energy, because that's in essence, it's less the story, it's the energy that you're projecting of, wow, they're passionate about what they do. They obviously, you're going to pick stories that you have an accomplishment and a goal reached. But when you do that in a way that they go, wow, what they will retain more is remembering how you told that story, how they felt when you told that story. I didn't put a slide in here, and I had meant to, and it has to do with communication. 7% of our communication is from words. The 34% is from tone. And the rest is from body language. So what we convey is really important here. There's a whole bunch more to this story arc thing that that I'm describing here, and I want to move on. But you get the picture. Is do this, and what I'll tell you is record it on Zoom and watch yourself, and see how you look. How many ums did I say? Ums are space fillers. Ums are just slow down. You know, maybe you just need to slow down and tell the story. Because powerful pauses have a huge effect. So if you're just rushing through to tell the story, you're not as effective as you might want to be. The other thing here is sometimes they ask questions that you don't have a story for. But if you're developing this muscle, it will come more naturally. Now, I had a client recently tell me, I'm not a storyteller. And I said, the human existence is storytelling. Every single person on this planet tells stories. When you're with your girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse or friends, and you're animated and you're telling a story, and you've got your friends following you, you know how to tell a story. That's what we want. Okay? All right. Influence is the goal here. We want to create influence. And some of the undervalued areas are energy, body language, and rapport. And let me tell you, rapport is foundational to everything. When we think of rapport, we think of, oh, do we build rapport before the call? All right. Did we ask about the sports? Did we ask about the pandemic? Oh, we're in rapport. Yeah, we actually have some common view and we've got some level of connection. Let me tell you, rapport continues through the entire conversation. If you lose rapport, you lose them. I recently had a PayPal executive, fairly senior person that I was working with. It was on the software side. And he was interviewing at a job at Facebook. He said to me, first time ever I've gotten shot down in the first interview. He was blown away. How did I get shot down in the first interview? I've never been shot down in the first interview. We deconstructed the call. We gameplayed the call. He lost rapport very early in the conversation. And he was doing inappropriate things to try to kind of get it back. When you have a disagreement with someone, and I'm just going to use personal relationship as an example because it's the easiest thing for everybody to pull an example. When you're in disagreement with someone, you've broken rapport. And where do you go? Fights, when you're in a relationship, fights often go with, you're fighting about how the fight was. You're not fighting fair. You're not listening to me. The topic is completely lost. But if you ground yourself back to rapport, let's get back in rapport. Where do we see things common? How can we get in alignment? All right. Really important on how to do that. And there are verbal ways and there's nonverbal ways with body language to draw someone in to rapport with you. Okay. So body language, I just want to talk real quickly about body language relative to Zoom and relative to phone calls. Just some quick things since we're in this pandemic era. And that is that I've talked about how body language is key. And let's just imagine that if we're on a phone call, no video. When you're on a phone call and they can't read your body language, and that's the most important thing, then they're relying on the words and the tonality. And they're relying on the tonality a lot. All right. So if you animate yourself inflection wise, and I'm going to say this, and hand gesture wise, you're on a phone call, no video, and hands, when you move your hands, your tonality changes. It's great to stand up for an interview. If you're at home on audio, stand up, gesticulate, move your hands, make sure the energy is flowing in your body. It will convey through, okay? The other thing is that if you've ever gotten a massage and the masseuse is massaging you and they need more oil and they reach to get more oil, good masseuses leave their hand on the body while they grab the oil. Why do they do that? Rapport. They're keeping connection. There's other ways to keep connection with people on the phone. And there's a word that people love hearing. One of people's favorite words is their name. When you say someone's name on the phone, it feels like you touching them personally. All right? You can get away with saying someone's name twice as much on the phone as you can in person. And they will love it and they won't know what you're doing. It builds rapport. All right? So, so that's it there. All right. So design your support system. You guys all have a support system like this, right? If not, then maybe it's time to get one, right? So when you're in a job search, find someone else that's in a job search. Find a coach. Find something that helps kind of hold you accountable, that gets your structure in place, that you can say, hey, can I just run this story by you? To think stuff through. As much as we think, if you ask anybody, do you think you're smart? You know what everybody's answer is? Yeah, I think I'm smart. I'm smart. You don't have anybody go, I'm pretty dumb. No one says that. So, but the thing is, even smart people want an outside perspective. Why do executives want to talk to someone like me? They want a reflection. They want, and I don't work with just executives, but they want an outside perspective. This is a great time to build a community for yourself to do that. All right. So you should look at what are the key elements of what I need. I need a resume writer. I need someone on interviews. I need whatever. This person, in my LinkedIn network is great at that. Can I just pick their brain? Hey, can I use you as a resource for this? Right? Build the support system and give them the trumpets. All right? And there's so much more I could have gone over. I'm just checking the time. I'm going to stop here in just a second. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to write in the chat box. What is the top insight, the key insight or takeaways you got from this discussion? Did I get your gears working? Did I get you to think in a different way? So I'd love for everybody to do this. And here's why. It's really valuable when you see other people, what they're seeing that maybe you didn't see. Because when you see someone else going through it, and how they're processing stuff, it's like, oh, that's valuable to me. So what is your key insight or takeaway? And it's interesting, if there's any of my clients that are on the line here, and I think I saw one or two, is that this is a question, one of the last questions I ask before we hang up the phone. What is your key insight? Because the key insight, the new thought, is the opportunity to create the transformation. You have the new idea. What am I going to do to act on that to create transformation? Okay. So thank you. I'm so honored to be part of this community, to be invited to this. And I'm going to quickly go through the two things that, and I won't have much time on them. I'm going to show them real quick and then turn it over to Christy. So the first is, I'm actually creating a group coaching program. And I'm calling it CAP, or Career Action Plan. It launches in September. It covers a variety of these things. And if it's something you're interested in, then reach out to me. All right. I'm not even going to leave this on the screen that long. I am going to create a PDF of this presentation, and you guys will have access to this. All right. And then secondly, here's my special offer for boot camp. All right. I am offering the first 6 people a free coaching session. And the way to do that is just email me and let me know you're interested in spending a session with me. It's no obligation. If you're interested in working with me, we can talk about that. But, I love giving back. And that's my way to give back to this group. So I thank you for having me. So that's it. That's all I have. Hopefully we accomplished the goals that I wanted to accomplish in this presentation, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys.
Okay, Jay, there's one question. This is the first time this has ever happened. It's like everything in the chat is like, this is fantastic. I can't believe it. And, all the private messages to me are, Jay is great. This is incredible. I can't believe that I'm learning so much. And so this is the first time that this has happened. It's pretty incredible. Jay, it was fantastic. I have so many takeaways. But here's an interesting thing. When you talked about the mask, and I want to wear a mask so no one can see what I look like. it's so interesting how much we can hide behind our masks these days. And so anyway, I just thought that was interesting. One of the questions that was sent to me privately to ask you is, how do you sustain the energy and enthusiasm and confidence over the long haul? How do you maintain that?
Well, remember when I talked about energy incongruence, right? When you're out of energy, here's what I'm presenting and here's what I'm feeling. It's exhausting. When you're in alignment, it's not exhausting. So that's the irony to it. But the thing is, to get in alignment takes some work sometimes. To say, wait a second, what do I have to shed to get in alignment? And sometimes I need to shed thoughts or beliefs of who I am. I need to shed my expectation of myself. And when you say, what do I really want? I was working yesterday with a client, and it was interesting because they were saying, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm doing, and here's what I want. And I just paused and I go, do you see you're not doing what you want? And they said, yeah. Like at that moment I could see, and I look for it when I'm talking with people, is when the light bulbs go on. And then when you get the clarity at the top of the triangle, figuring out the actions are not as hard. So the question is, get the clarity and then you can figure out the steps. So with that said, you know, getting some regular exercise and getting the physiology. If you're lying on the couch, if you're a couch potato, if you're just zoned into kind of one little world, you have to get some stimulation. Now, the other thing is that which I did not even touch on clients that are in my 6-month or 12-month program, we do a deep dive into mindfulness. And I'm not talking meditation. I'm talking mindfulness. And I start them at ground zero. And I got to tell you, I've had people drop therapists, told me that they're off anti-anxiety medicine. And I'm not saying those are the claims I make. I'm just telling you that's what clients have told me, because anxiety is our thoughts. If you think of a thought, every time I have a thought, there's a corresponding feeling. It's like a coin. I have a thought. The flip side of the thought is a feeling. If you're not feeling good, you're not having good thoughts. And there's a way with mindfulness to teach yourself to watch the thoughts you're having. I teach this metaphor of clouds going by, and you take these thoughts off the clouds and you grow them, and it's not based in reality. So I could keep going on this topic.
I know. We have more questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Bill Laser asked, what are some of the inappropriate ways someone tries to win back rapport once it's lost? I would almost ask, what are the appropriate ways?
Well, people fight for attention, right? And they might talk over. They're like, oh, I want you to hear me, right? Because underneath that is like, I want connection. So if I talk louder, if I interrupt, if I do that, what happens is they're actually breaking rapport, but they're trying to kind of create the connection. So if you want the connection, like, slow down. I mean, part of this is, you know, primal. This is primal. It's almost like, you know, if you think of the classic male-female mating thing, it's like, if you're too needy, the other person runs away. It is the same thing.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Subtle thing. So yeah, so giving the space, like, you can be powerful. And this is what I work on with folks, is power. And power, in my mind, is power within. It's knowing what you want, being able to articulate to yourself and others what you want, and then being able to hold your boundaries on it.
Yeah, and I think also attachment goes with it, or detachment. Trying to detach from the outcome, focus on the rapport, focus on the connection, detach from the outcome. And so I completely agree with you. I think it's fun. So Irene Fung asks, would you please give an example on metrics for measuring your progress? for example, on clarity, why, and what I want to do? What metrics go along with those?
Well, well, a couple things. On metrics for job search is easier. When they're task-oriented stuff, then it's easier to measure. But, one of the things you can do from, a clarity standpoint is kind of say, do I know what I want? And here's the date. What is even my target date to get some clarity? And, have I gotten more clarity over a period of time? Where am I next week? Now, with that said, there's exercises, and I can't go into it here, that you can go through to kind of drive, clarity. And, what is most important to me? And one of the things I do with folks that I do kind of life coaching stuff is we actually go to look at our values. We look at our values, we look at our life purpose, and that is foundational for, getting in harmony, self-harmony, even more so. So, it's not as easy an answer on the clarity why it is on actions, obviously, but, it's progress. Have I made more progress in knowing what I want? And what happens is you make little incremental progress. All too often people say, oh, you got to go outside your comfort zone. You got to go outside your comfort zone. How about this? How about doing the doable? Forget the comfort zone. Just do the doable. Just do enough in the direction that you want, because all too often we stop. Don't stop. Do the doable, and you know what happens to your comfort zone? It expands by itself.
I love that, Jay, thank you. And there's a couple of other takeaways that I really thought were key, especially for me and what we do as a company, and we're in sales with clients, and it's that concept of serving. And, I always think that sales and job search are so similar, but when you find a job, you get to, kind of exhale, and us in sales where we don't. But it's that concept of serving and coming from, a place of service and value, like, offering value. It's a different, kind of approach than seeking a job and wanting somebody to want you. And I really like that. The other thing that you mentioned that I really want to highlight is those undervalued areas: energy, body language, and rapport. So many people think it's what I say, what my resume looks like, and how impressive I am.
Right.
And that's not at all what it is. It's energy, rapport. And you stated it perfectly. It's great.
You never lose the job because of the resume.
No.
The deal is, the sole purpose of the resume is to get you in conversation.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you, and sorry to interrupt, but I want to get this in. So many people talk about ageism.
Yeah.
And so talk about ageism relative to all of these other things, the energy incongruence.
Yeah, so, there's sexism, there's racism. I've got some African-American clients, and we've been talking about racism in some areas and things. All of this stuff exists, right? In fact, I didn't want to believe it exists, and that guy's telling me, color my hair. I'll cut it shorter. I used to joke that with the barber, just cut the white hairs, and that's not possible anymore because I'd be bald. But so let's just agree it exists, all right? And we have to navigate around it, right? And there's ways to navigate around it. And if you think about what is it about ageism, one of the things is energy, is that with my wisdom, it's not a deficit. Sometimes they'll go, oh, you're too experienced, right? Well, there's ways that you can kind of tactically deal with you know, to experience. In some cases, you can choose what you say. You can thin out your resume. You know, if you need, yes, you can adjust. Now, you can't avoid it. It's there. And if you let it get you down, then that's not a good thing. So kind of pushing your energy higher, and there are some other kind of things that I talk about with ageism, but the thing is, there are a group of people that are going to succeed in getting jobs. You know, is there someone out there in the Bay Area that's gotten a job that's 65? The answer is yes. Of course.
Oh yeah, there's a ton.
There's
even
a ton.
boot campers, yeah.
Right, and so the thing is, if you believe that you can do that, then you are a lot higher than the person who doesn't believe. And this speaks to your energy level. And one of the things that I work with folks on is driving certainty into your body, certainty into your belief. When you have so much certainty, you know what happens? It overcomes doubt. All right? You drive certainty. When you can drive certainty and you know who you are, you know what you can provide. I'm not talking arrogance. There's a fine line here between saying I'm cocky, but if you can drive certainty, it can overcome doubt. How many times have you seen someone speak or something like that, and all of a sudden, whatever they've got, you start to have, right? That was my goal today, to drive your energy higher. I wanted to take some of the energy I had and just multiply it out.
Well, I think you did it, Jay, and we are out of time. And you have been a coach, I think, your entire career, and you are perfectly suited for what you're doing now. And I am super excited to have people work with you and have you influence their energy and just affect their life in such a positive way. Will you come back? I'm going to ask you, I'm putting you on the spot. Will you come back again?
Sure, I'll come back. And Chrissy, I got to say just thank you for inviting me. You know, I really appreciate this community, so thank you.
Well, you are great. I'm so appreciate you being part of the community, and thank you for helping all of us on the call. And thank you. Okay, everyone, we'll see you next week. We have another great person, and bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.